Okay, I built this little AGC circuit, out of this book. It's basically what you see here. So, and I didn't use a special sensor like they were talking about. I just used a photocell and an LED, as you see in the schematic over here. Um, and here's the circuit board. Basically how this thing works. It's an amplifier of a gain of 19. You got an 18K resistor. It's non-inverting. 1K resistor here. And, although I don't quite get that gain out of this, but then again, I'm not using the exact components or anything, so as far as the little sensor is concerned. But basically, if the input voltage gets, the output voltage gets high enough, it'll basically start turning on this transistor here, which starts turning on this LED, which starts turning, lowering the resistance on this photocell. So it actually, in effect, just acts like an input attenuator, and it, it'll start cutting down the, it acts like a voltage divider basically. So it starts cutting down the signal at some point, which is supposed to not have much effect on, at higher, when the thing's completely off. But as the output starts to reach a certain point, well, this starts to kick in more and more and more as the input signal rises and the output signal tries to rise. Well, that just drives this more strongly, so it drives this attenuator more. So basically, it ends up, restricting the size of the output signal. It's a little misnomer to call it a gain control, because it's really an input attenuator control, because it really doesn't change the gain of the amplifier at all. It just changes the input attenuation of it, which is, rather interesting. And, I can show you here, an analog discovery. Well, let me get this. Okay. So I can show you here an analog discovery, what's going on. And, right now we're getting a gain of like 10 times. Hopefully you can see that. The gain is 10x. Here's my input and here's the output. The signal's about 1 volt peak to peak right now, and our signal input is about, right around 100 millivolts. This is supposed to kick in at a little over 100 millivolts, according to the book, but of course mine's going to be a little different because the different sensor I used and everything. Because the CDS photocell is probably lower resistance than theirs is. But as I start to increase this more towards 81 millivolts, so you can see the gain change, right? The signal's changing just fine, but at some point, I don't know if you can see the gain and how it's changing. See below that, it's 10 or 11 or so, as long as the voltage is low enough. But when I start increasing it, at some point, the input starts to, grow and the output is not growing anymore. Now notice these are at 2 different scales because, I have to do that. So I have our output set at 1 volt per division and the input's at 200 millivolts per division. But basically, yeah, you can see that, hell, I didn't mean to do that. But, you can see that, yeah, as the the gain starts to fall as I continue to increase the input to it. So I mean, it just keeps falling and falling and falling. So the gain in effect is being reduced, but it's really just attenuating the input. So you can see the gain continue to increase as I lower the signal, and it'll continue to do that until I hit about 10 or 11, and then it stops. So then it kind of tracks with the input more faithfully. So anyway, it's a pretty neat little circuit, and here's how it actually was made. I had to put tape over it because the photosensor is sensitive to that. Because that kind of limits the gain. Gain's a lot lower now. So I mean, it still works. Let's but the gain's only about, 2 or 3. Oh shit. 2 or 3, and then it gets up to 4 or 5, and as you can see, it starts to kick in. But I still don't think you'll see much output from the LED. Yeah, it's really hard to see. So you'll probably see it if it was totally dark in here, but it wouldn't be so strongly driven. But it is on, so I could barely see it with my naked eye. But yeah, I don't think the camera's picking that up. But anyway, it's just kind of a cool little circuit. So you might want to see that. Cheers. Yeah, anyway, that's how it works. Ow! I guess I'm still running the damn thing. Well, damn it. Sorry about that. You forget I'm not using that.